the last meeting, I did ask about the limits on the insurance. Was there any feedback on whether those are adequate from?
These are standard limits that apply, and they've applied for years. We've raised it in the past, but I believe this is as high as it's going to go.
Okay. Well, I mean, we can ask for whatever limit is adequate to protect the district. So whether that's raised now or it's raised in the future based on,
I believe this is the cap for this coverage.
For general liability? Bodily injury? It is, you buy insurance in any limit you choose if you're willing to pay the premiums. I think council has a comment on this item.
Yeah, if you want to update the required insurance, the typical process is to go through risk management to review what is generally charged so that they can assess what they know to be the liability for these types of activities, and they can advise on whether it should be updated or not, and what that update would look like.
Right. But I guess these
limits are standard limits that apply to larger jurisdictions than us, such as Templeton and or wherever other fireworks are sold. It's the same company. They have a monopoly, and this insurance is their blanket coverage for larger municipalities.
Is this Alliant? Is that the carrier?
What's that?
Alliant, are they the carrier? Or who's the?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. We don't have this agreement in place, so I have not seen the policy.
But it's TNT Fireworks or something?
TNT Fireworks is the company, but the insurance carrier is something different.
So the carriers arranged through TNT?
Yes.
Thank you. Any other board comments or questions? Any public comment on this item? None. Okay.
Madam President, I move to pass resolution 2025-10.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor by Director Smiley to approve firework permit fees for the 2025 calendar year by resolution 2025-10, sent by Director Beatty. We'll have a vote. Director Smiley?
Yes.
Director Green?
No.
Director Davis?
No.
Director Beatty?
Yes.
Director Sangster?
Yes.
Passes 3-2-0 absence.
Thank you, directors.
Okay, we're going to have item number 7. Declare hazardous weeds a public nuisance within the San Miguel Community Services District.
So, once again, the suggested action is to review and approve Resolution 2025-11, declaring hazardous weeds a public nuisance, and directed district staff to proceed with mailing of notices to abate. So the district fire department conducts a weed abatement program to reduce fuel load and eliminate fire hazards pursuant to the authority contained in the Government Code Section 61100, parent T, and Health and Safety Code Section 14875, and California Fire Code Section 4907 and 4908. And abatement is initiated by resolution adopting, declaring weeds and accumulation of fuels on identified properties as a public nuisance. Annually, the fire department inspects all parcels within its service district boundaries, and for compliance with its weed abatement program, parcels listed in Exhibit A in the attached resolution were determined to be non-compliant with 428 lots/addresses deemed to be public nuisances. A formal notice to abate will be sent to the property owners following the adoption of the attached resolution in accordance with the comprehensive weed abatement policy set forth by the Health and Safety Codes. Public meeting scheduled for May 22nd, 2025 shall be held to consider any objections by affected property owners. All parcels not corrected shall be placed on a weed abatement list, and the cost for abatement shall be placed on assessment for each parcel's property tax bill. And the fiscal impact is none. The cost shall be paid by the affected property owners. Just a little caveat on this, there are 428 lots on this weed abatement list. We had to do weed abatement inspections early because this meeting was accelerated. Normally we'd have another week, so to get it on the agenda, people were still in the process of thinking about cutting their weeds, probably some got cut this weekend. There are also parcels on there that have multiple addresses due to ADUs or subdivisions that are going to occur in the future.
Thank you. The board will comment or questions?
On the list, Scott, is, what are the highlighted numbers?
So the highlighted numbers are parcels that have multiple addresses.
Oh, that's what
They might have an ADU or it could be set for a subdivision. So if you're looking at 25 and 26, there's 2 addresses on one parcel.
Okay, thank you.
Is Pretty Smith Winery on there?
Absolutely.
For sure.
I couldn't find it.
It doesn't say Pretty Smith.
No, I know. Oh, yeah.
It's 13350.
98, huh?
It's 13350 North River Road.
You guys want the APN number?
Is the list in order of parcel number?
I put it in order by APN number, yeah.
Okay, that's what's missing.
So the addresses, the APN numbers, and then
What you got address wise? Yeah.
13350. And with the abatement notice, they're only required to do up to the fence.
And there's no cost for the notice?
APN?
What's that?
There's no cost for noticing the property owners?
It's mailing, it's part of our annual budget.
Good. Any other board comment or questions?
Yes, I have a question. Scott, now,
13350 North River Road, parcel 027-271-041. Yes.
you put out these notices that they have to clean it up, or we're gonna do it, and then they're gonna, it'll go on their tax bill, right?
This is the first notice, just saying, hey, we inspected your property's out of compliance currently, you have until June 2nd to cut your weeds. If you do not comply by June 2nd, then we issue a cut order, and those properties are subject to abatement by a contractor who is hired by the district. They'll go out and abate the weeds, they submit a bill, the bill is presented to the county tax collector for repayment.
Yeah, well, I seen on here in the packet, I don't remember what it was, but also if they have flammable trash around, that needs to be cleaned up too.
We're only able to go to the property line, to the fence line. We cannot go beyond that fence line. If you have larger parcels, there's mitigation action that we request. It's not required, but we're to have them part out the parcels. If we're going to properties that have an inordinate amount of debris or weeds that are behind their fence, we cannot take action on that. It would take an administrative warrant to go through and have somebody mitigate their property, say they have a large accumulation of belongings that they treasure, but you view as a nuisance. Then we would have to get with the sheriff's department, we'd have to get with the code enforcement, we'd have to get with environmental health, and collectively we'd have to file an administrative warrant to go onto that property and have that abated. And I think the cost is well over $5,000.
But mainly, we're just looking for weeds,
Yes.
right? People that never, okay.
Yes.
They you can see from the road.
Yes, we cannot go behind their property line to do abatement. If there's a parcel, let's say Cemetery Road, for example. Cemetery Road has a couple parcels that are north of the cemetery. There's no fence line there, so we could actually go out there and we could abate those parcels. We'll cut a perimeter, and then we'll cut some fire breaks in between them. Historically, they do not do their own weed abatement. We also perform weed abatement on the railroad parcels. Now that we have good relations with the railroad, so we're able to mitigate the weeds along the railroad, both sides of the track. We send the railroad the bill. It's cheaper for them to have us do the work than it is for them to send crews out. They send crews in December. So that relationship is been built over the last couple of years.
And we actually got money.
And we got,
Really?
We actually got money from it. For years.
Yeah, that's all, like I said, I was just concerned, because I look at some places and, I mean, I got one really close to me. And
There's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff there, you know. So, anyway, all right, thank you.
To Director Davis's point, is there not anything on the books with the county in terms of blight? I know we've talked about this in the past. Do they have any?
Back to the administrative warrant.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other board comment or questions?
No.
We have public comment on this item. No? All right. Back to the board.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion on the floor by Director Beatty to declare hazardous weeds a public nuisance within the San Miguel Community Service District boundaries by Resolution 2025-11. Second by Director Smiley. We'll have a vote. Director Beatty?
Yes.
Director Smiley?
Yes.
Director Davis?
Yes.
Director Green?
Yes.
Director Sangster?
Yes.
Passes 5-0, no absent.
Okay, moving on to item number 8. Discuss reading written public comments at board meetings.
So this item was asked to be brought back to the board by Director Green and Sangster from the February 27th board meeting to discuss whether or not to read written public comment aloud during public comment period of the general board meeting or specific items. Just for some context, public comment was not read aloud until 2020 when we read it aloud during COVID. Excuse me. In 2022, we stopped reading it aloud after we got some inflammatory comments, and the board president and the board at the time decided not to read public comment aloud anymore. Currently, we do, with the exception of last month, we do not read public comment aloud. If it's provided in written form, we provide it to all the directors via email and put it on the website, and depending on when it was made available, it's either attached to the board packet or is provided at the meeting. So last month we had, or February rather, we had 3 board comments that were provided by Mr. Gregory, or Mr. Campbell rather, which the board requested that we read aloud. And we can do it either way. We don't get a lot of written public comment. Whether we read it at the meeting or not, it'll still be provided to the board via email. It'll still be put on the website and attached to the board meeting minutes as public comment. And again, depending on what time we get it, it may be provided at the board meeting if it's not soon enough to attach it to the board packet. At the end of all this, it's up to the board whether to read it or not. There's no requirement to read it. However, if we are going to read it, then we need to be consistent and fair and read it all the time. With the exception of if it is inflammatory, then you can't force me to read it, and I can't force you to read it because there is laws against that.
When you say inflammatory, what are you talking about?
The just foul language or language that may be hurtful or spiteful or may be against or may be harassing. In that aspect, it is cleaner.
It's my understanding somebody can walk in this room and say anything they want to the 5 of us. It's their constitutional right to say it.
So the problem with that type of language is if you say, Kelly, you have to read that, and it's something that's that way, it's harassment to me. If it's something like Director Sangster was reading it, and he may not feel that it's appropriate to read to public, he is not the one making the statement, somebody else is. So then that could be construed as harassment to him. So yes, anybody can come up to the podium and say pretty much anything they like. They can do that in written form. It doesn't mean that we have to read that from written form. But again, it is a board decision on whether or not to read public comment, and based on prior conversations and direction, it just needs to be consistent to be fair to the public so they can know what to expect.
My bigger concern is the legitimacy. You get something in the mail, get something from an email, could be anybody.
Very true, especially these days.
Yeah. And that's, I think that if a person wants to contact us by mail, then there needs to be some sort of a process where they have to be able to identify themselves at the district, show a driver's license, leave a signature sample, something like that. I mean, it doesn't have to be that, but just so that you know if that's what the person wants to say.
Your emails are all over the place, just so you know.
So in that context, I don't know that we can enforce something like that to verify somebody's identity, because we can't force somebody to identify themselves if they walk in here.
No, if they want it read, they would have to follow the policy.
Right. But if our policy is not to read written comment, then, then the board isn't obligated to read it.
If you're qualifying it as public comment, and that's why you're reading it aloud, excuse me, I'm sorry, then you can't force them to provide any information or identify themselves that's specific under the Brown Act.
So no more identification than their name, just as we would collect if somebody's here in person, is that correct?
You still can't, so what you guys do that and you ask them, but you can't stop them from making public comment if they refuse to fill out your form or give their name.
Okay.
They don't, the law does not require them to do that.
Understood. Any other board comment or questions on this item? I would say, I think that public comment in any form is important for us to hear. As a board, we want to know what the public has to say about particular items. And if the people who are submitting these comments are legitimate and they have something that's relevant to a particular item on the agenda, I think it's important that their voices are heard. I don't agree that people should be sending inflammatory things. I don't think those are of any value to the public or the board, so I don't think that those should be read aloud. My personal feeling would be that if these are communicated to the board, if there's sufficient time, they could be approved by a 3-2 or minimum three approved directors vote to read it aloud in that particular meeting, and it would be given 3 minutes time. Not to say that somebody needs to speed read if it's a full page, but they would get 3 minutes just like any other public comment. But again, that would be based upon it being reviewed prior to, that it's not inflammatory and it's relevant to the discussions of the board item that they're referencing. That's just my take.
I'd rather have somebody read it than have somebody stand there and yell at me when I'm up here volunteering for this.
So we can't, if you're going to do it one way or the other, you have to make it available. There can't be any qualifier to being read or not read. And the board making a decision prior to the meeting on whether to read something or not kind of circumvents the whole system. So either you would have to agree at that item to read that public comment as a board, or you just have a policy that you always read them, or you don't read them, because you can't qualify somebody's public comment. It's either public comment or it's not. I don't have a problem reading them. My only problem reading them is that if we get 100 of them and our policy is to read them all, then we have to read them all.
Understood.
Not that we get 100 of them, obviously, but.
Is there public comment on this item? In-person public comment. All right.
Okay, just wondering.
And you're just looking for direction?
So we just need direction on whether the board wants to read public comments or to not read public comments. Again, either way, depending on when we receive them, they'll be emailed to all the directors, they'll be put on our website. They will be included in the meeting minutes for approval at the next meeting. And again, depending on when they were received, they may be copied and placed in the back for the public if it's not put on the website in time for somebody to be able to read it there. So we just need direction on whether you want to read them aloud each time or not.
I would like,
I would be in favor of continuing on as we posted. It's in the back along with everything else, gives the public a chance to read it on our website, gives them a chance to read it. And also they have the option to come in and appear, so I don't see why we would, what if we get 30 letters?
Yeah, and that would be the time issue, is if you receive a lot of them.
You know, so, anyway, I would like to see us continue as we have.
Dr. Davis?
I'd like to have us read them,
Okay.
you know. And the way it was back during COVID, if I remember right, anybody that emailed the C.S.D. and wanted they would email and they would have their opinion, and I think it was what, 4 o'clock the day before the actual meeting? There was a deadline.
So you could call up to 4:30,
Yeah,
and you could submit written public comment up to 4 o'clock the day of the meeting.
right, but you didn't have to be at the meeting, you could,
Right, but we didn't. So during COVID, we were reading them because nobody was allowed to come to meetings.
yeah,
Before that, we wouldn't read them. The rules were still the same. You can still provide written comment pretty much at any time. I mean, any one of the public here could bring a written comment from somebody else.
right,
And they could choose to read it, or they could just hand it to us.
yeah, right, but if somebody emails you or writes a letter, I think it ought to be read.
And that's the question right now. That's why they're not
That-
submitting it to all of you guys to read
Yeah.
and providing a copy for everybody to read that would like to.
Yeah,
Is what the board wants, or if the board wants to read each one. But you can't go back and forth. You have to make it fair and consistent for the public. So either we're reading them all or we're not reading any of them,
No matter what they say.
no matter what they say.
Leave out the words.
Let's give it a 1-year trial period.
That's, just to be clear, there are constitutional limitations on your speech when it comes to public speaking. And so let's say you got a public comment letter that was specifically threatening violence against staff or board members, you have the right to not read that or put it into the public comment and completely ignore it, frankly. So it's not no matter what they say, but you can't decide you don't like what they're saying and you don't want to read it in, right? That's different. There has to be some kind of constitutional implication that limits their speech, which is rare. And this is a formal action, it's not just direction to staff. This would be updating the policy because the board policy specifically states right now that public comment will not be read into the record.
So we'd have to pay to have it rewritten.
I think your staff could probably handle that.
Yeah, okay. Just go back to what it was before.
During COVID?
Yeah, well, I mean, as far as writing goes.
So I missed what the direction is.
I don't think you got one yet.
Okay, then I didn't miss anything.
I say, give it a 1-year trial period to see if we end up agreeing or disagreeing.
And 1-year trial period, which
we already have 2 different ends of the spectrum weighing in.
Clarify, trial period for what? To allow public comment?
To allow these to be read.
To be read.
to be read.
So
Bring it back in a year.
so can I understand that as a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
So you're making a motion to read written public comment.
In a trial period of 1 year. And
1 year.
and then we can decide if it's productive or not productive.
So hang on a minute.
I'm sorry.
So what you're saying is a year, and we wouldn't have an opportunity to hear this again for 12 months. And what if it's a complete disaster?
Okay. I'll retract that then. You make a motion.
I'll make the same motion, but let's give it at least 6 months.
So why don't we make a motion to read public comment? If it works, then great, and we'll ignore it for the rest. If it doesn't, then we'll be right back here making the same decision.
No time frame.
Right.
Perfect.
That way you're not limiting yourself, and we don't have to bring it back if it works just fine.
There you go.
Yeah.
And you don't have, the comments don't have to have a name to them or anything like that, because that's what we got into before.
No, they should be, I think,
And you don't have to can't put those rules on, I guess.
We appoint Kelly as the reader.
Well, that's true.
Comments.
If that's what the board wants, then I'll read them. I'll be
Kelly,
here anyway.
I like that in the motion.
I would say if anybody,
I would request that.
anybody writes a letter or emails a letter, we should know who it is.
I don't believe that you can do that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Council says you can't. Well, let them send them.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, right?
Just open up.
So just for clarification, and I don't know who at this point was going to make this motion, but the motion is to read written public comment aloud for whatever item it is designated.
You really need a board member to make that motion for this to actually to occur.
Is that what you'd like, Director Davis or Director Dean?
Make a motion.
Make it.
Okay, I make a motion that we start reading emailed or written
Written
letters.
public comment.
Yeah,
Written public comment.
written public comment, yes.
I'll second.
I would like to clarify the motion that it would be relative to a specific item on the agenda,
Yes.
and the comment is limited to 3 minutes.
We can do that.
You can just limit it to the normal public comment rules, I mean, that's all
Right.
that exists anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think we can restrict it further than what the Brown Act has.
Okay.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor by Director Davis to read public comment as stated, with the whole 3 minutes and anything else? As stated. Okay, second by Director Green, we'll have a vote. Director Smiley?
No.
Director Davis?
Yes,
Director Beatty?
No.
Director Green?
Yes.
Director Sangster?
Yes.
Passes 3-2, 0 absence.
Okay, item number 9, discussion on the dissolution of the San Miguel Community Services District.
Which ironically, we have a public comment.
Yes, we do. See what time we got it though. See what time we got it at, so, yeah.
Well, we're not to public comment.
Okay, but when we do. Okay.
So this item was requested by Director Green and Director Sangster to discuss the pros and cons of dissolving the district after receiving a written letter to the board by by Gregory Campbell requesting that they do so. The district was formed in 2000 to consolidate County Waterworks Number 1, San Miguel Sanitary District, San Miguel Fire Protection District, and the County Lighting District into one district within the community to allow for consolidation of resources, to reduce administrative costs and increase efficiency, as well as provide more local control over water and street lighting within the community. So there's a basic list of pros and cons. We didn't do a deep dive into the actual process because that wasn't entirely requested. Basically, the few pros would be consolidation of administrative resources, consolidation of operational resources, reduction in expenses related to a local office if the local office was deleted from the program, and availability of additional administrative and technical resources for projects. Since the county already has all of the same positions that we have here, it would be added workload to those positions. The cost to the community for that administrative effort or operational effort may be less than we pay now. If they have to hire additional personnel to deal with our district, then it may be the same, it may be more. There's no real way to know that for sure. Cons for dissolving, we have no local personnel to assist customers to respond to issues. One of the biggest things that I'm most proud of is our ability to work with customers, our customer service, in dealing with customer issues. Every day, without fail, we have somebody calling with a problem that maybe we can solve, maybe we can't, but we can help them figure out how to solve it. If we don't have any local personnel here, operations personnel would be shared with all county service areas, generally operating out of Santa Margarita. So you have response time from Santa Margarita or response time from Shandon or Oak Shores or wherever they happen to be that day. Customers would be required to make payments to the county in San Luis Obispo. Generally, no local clerk or assistant would be here to assist with billing. So customers with payment issues would have to contact the county. Generally in San Luis Obispo, there may be some sort of payment method here, but that would have to be worked out if this were to go forward. No local control of the water, wastewater, fire, lighting, and solid waste within the community. Decisions would be made by the county staff located in San Luis Obispo and the county board of supervisors. Earlier this evening, we heard a public comment from Ms. Tackert, and so the county would generally make each of our individual funds or departments a service area, which is what most of them were started with. So although there may be some overall oversight from an advisory body within the district, the decisions and the direction of any of these departments would be based on what the county engineers, the county staff, the county board of supervisors want to approve for this district. So to my point, generally the local control would be stripped from the district. As the public is here tonight, if they wanted to complain about something, they would have to complain generally to the board of supervisors and make the trip down during the day to go to a supervisor's meeting. Or they can write a written comment, but I don't believe that the board reads those. You have listed for spending and rate changes. Repairs of capital projects may be delayed or not performed depending on county priorities. As a service area of the county, the San Miguel may not qualify for grant funding that has generally paid for capital projects, which will lead to less repairs, improvements long-term, which in turn may require rate increases over repair costs. Time and time again, I've seen that the county has prioritized certain areas over other areas for political or other reasons. San Miguel is kind of in a unique little spot because we are a disadvantaged community. So while the county could apply for grant funding on the community's behalf, it's a little bit more difficult for them to prove that it's only San Miguel. Because the county itself is not disadvantaged. Some of the routine things that we do now, such for preventative maintenance, a lot of the projects that the board's approved over the years most likely wouldn't have gotten done if it was a county service area still. They just don't have the resources to put into that kind of capital infrastructure, even if the district is paying into that. It takes a lot longer to get there.